Microphone's on. Thank you, Mrs. Borman. Miss Olivia Davis is our legal representative this afternoon. Please can you remind the subcommittee of its administrative function and explain the procedure to be followed? Thank you very much.
I would advise members and others present for this meeting that in dealing with the business of the subcommittee, members will be exercising an administrative function with the process similar to the Magistrates' Court. However, the proceedings will be informal and the rules of natural justice will apply. For the benefit of those present, I will outline the procedure to be followed in dealing with the agenda. Councillors M. Cuthbert, Mrs. N. Cuthbert and Mrs. Marsh are forming the subcommittee this morning, and Councillor M. Cuthbert has been nominated to chair the meeting. The chair will ask all parties to introduce themselves. The licensing manager will then introduce the report in relation to this hearing. Members may ask questions on the report and other parties may also ask questions. The chair will then invite the responsible authorities to address the subcommittee. Members and other parties may also ask questions of the responsible authorities. The chair will then invite the applicant or their representative to address the subcommittee. Members may ask questions of the applicant. Other parties may also ask questions of the applicant. There will then be an opportunity for the licensing manager, responsible authorities and the applicant to make closing statements. Members will then leave the meeting to consider their decision and may request legal advice during their discussion. When members rejoin the meeting, they will give that decision, together with reasons, orally. The decision itself will be confirmed in writing within 5 working days following the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made at this time? No? Okay, thank you. Before I ask the licensing manager to introduce the matter before us today, could I ask all persons to introduce themselves, starting with the licensing officers?
Chair, it's Paul Adams, licensing manager.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Dave Leonard, licensing officer at Brentwood Council, making representation as a responsible authority.
Gary Burke, police licensing.
Good afternoon, Chair. Chris Rees-Gay, solicitor on behalf of the applicant today.
Thank you. I'm Katie Channon, the owner of Calverton Hall.
Ellis Coles, producer of Appetite on the Farm.
Owen Blackwood, traffic management consultant for Appetite on the Farm.
Zoe Borman, I'm the clerk today.
Fiona Marsh, councillor.
Councillor Martin Cuthbert and chair.
Councillor Nicola Cuthbert.
Thank you very much. This application is to vary a premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003 for Kelvedon Hall, Kelvedon Hall Lane, Kelvedon Hatch, CM14 5TN. Mr. Adams, will you introduce the matter, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, just to make it obviously clear for the committee, my role here today is on behalf of the licensing authority. I know my colleague, Mr. Leonard, is here, but he is here as part of the responsible authority side of the licensing authority. So our functions are separate for the purpose of today. The application before you today is an application in relation to the premises licence at Kelvedon Hall, held by K Hatch Limited. The application, or the variation application, was received on the 6th of October 2025, and the application relates to the expansion of the capacity for the licence from 5,000 people up to 10,000 people. it says in the report, and a similar application has come before the committee last year, and the information's in there, where a similar application was heard and the capacity was agreed that would be 7,500 people for that year only. The application has been consulted upon in accordance with the regulations, and we have received 3 relevant representations. The first is from Essex Police, from Mr Burke. His representation is attached as Appendix C, but he is here today and he can take you through his representation. In addition to his representation, I think everybody has seen a copy of their additional bundle, their additional evidence that's been provided to you. That contains witness statements from 2 police officers, and there's some information there from Essex Highways. The second representation is on behalf of the licensing authority as a responsible authority, and Mr Leonard is here today to make that representation, and their representation is also included in the report. There's also been a further representation in relation to, from an interested party or another person, as they're now known. That's from a local resident living close by. They have been invited to attend today, but haven't indicated whether they will or will not come. Their representation is there as Appendix D. It's on page 78 of your report. Effectively, it talks about issues they've had with people coming and going from the site, but I'll leave that for you to read that alone. As I say, I mean, this is an application to vary the licence, so we should only be considering the information that, or what the application is for. You can't look at anything that the licence currently has, or look to sort of amend that licence in any way, shape or form. Your decision has to relate to the variation that's been applied for. We have also included as part of the pack some ordnance survey maps and some photographs, which hopefully may help with some of your considerations. I think, to be honest, unless there's anything else I can add at this point, I think that's all I need to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Adams. Do members have any questions of the licensing manager? No, not at this moment. Thank you very much. So, are there any questions from any other parties?
No, thank you, Chair.
No. Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll now hear from the responsible authority, Mr Gary Burke, on behalf of Essex Police and any witnesses.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you've all had a chance to read my letter of representation and the supporting statements that followed. The representation that we've made is fairly straightforward under the crime and disorder and public safety objectives, more so on the disorder side of things rather than any particular crime. It relates to the issue of customers either before or after the event being on a road that is open, as it says in the letter. It's an unlit road with not much in the way of pavements for walking and a national speed limit road. The statements I have attached, unfortunately, the officers that submit their statements are on other duties, weren't able to attend, but Hayley Street from Essex Highways is here, she's just on another meeting up there, so if you wish to hear from her or have any questions for her, I could run out and see if she's free to come in. We have seen, obviously, people on the road when the event capacities have been 5,000 and 7,500. So our concern is by raising it to 10,000, it's just going to exacerbate the issue from there. As I said, it's fairly straightforward. I don't have anything else to say, so unless there's any questions or if you wish to hear from Essex Highways. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr Burke. I think there's some. Could we have some clarification on Essex Highways, please, Mr Davis? Yes. Would you mind confirming that? And would you mind turning your mic on for the recording?
I think we just need to be very clear about the basis on which we'd be hearing from Essex Highways, because there is an email appended to one of the officer's statements from Miss Street in which she says she's making a representation on behalf of Highways, but it's out of time for that to be a representation. So if we are going to hear from Miss Street it needs to just be in support of the police's representation and not considered by this committee as a representation from highways, because we're out of time for any more representations.
Lovely. Thanks very much for that, Ms Davies. I do have a couple of questions for you, if you are able to answer them. Are you happy with the current 5,000 capacity number? Or are you unhappy purely with the with it being increased to 10,000, or are you unhappy with the 7,500 number as well? Just trying to work out where the issues lie, and if they, if there's a problem with the application as it stands. I realise that we're talking about what is in front of us, but I'm trying to gauge, I guess, what's acceptable.
That's not an easy question to answer. If managed properly, the numbers are not an issue. As we've said, I've lived across the various representations. It's the location in terms of getting to the premises, to and from the premises, that causes the issue, not necessarily the numbers itself. But I'm not sure if that makes sense.
So I guess my concern is that the location is where it is, and we have, and I think that there's an issue, or the issues being raised are relevant for high numbers, whether that's 5,000, 7,500 or 10,000. And many other figures as well, but obviously these are the three figures that we have in front of us that are accepted at the moment, have previously been accepted, and are being requested. So that's why I mentioned those three. So what I'm trying to understand is, from the, as the responsible authority, the police, if this wasn't accepted, or the numbers were diminished or reduced, would that be acceptable? And I'm not. I don't know. I think we're going to. There may be a reduction in incidents with a lower number, but it sounds like there may still be incidents that are unacceptable to the police, because there's still going to be numbers of people who may be walking down the road, and the police are still going to have to deal with that, without any increases or without any changes.
Yeah, between the two, with the concerns, we would prefer the 5,000 number, just by virtue of less people would be less chances of it occurring. I know there have been additional measures that have been put forward for this hearing. As is always the case, it's hard to know how effective that is until it actually happens, as it is for any event.
Okay, thank you. And I'll go to you, Councillor Marsh, if you have a question.
Thank you. From what I'm hearing, the impression I'm getting is that you're drawing a straightforward extrapolation. If you have X amount of people, 5,000, you'll get so much trouble. If you increase it, you'll get more. Is that the case?
Not so much trouble, but yes, it's sort of, the concern is doubling the number could potentially lead to double the number of people on the road.
But that doesn't take into consideration additional efforts that are made to prevent it. And obviously, moving up from the 5,000 to 7,500, there were considerable efforts put in place to minimise the trouble. And certainly some of the things I've seen suggest that a large chunk of that was very successful. So what I'm wondering is, a lot of effort went by the organisers to improve it in August, and they are very willing and it seems enthusiastic to continue that progress. So is it really the case that by increasing the numbers we are bound to get more trouble, because with enough effort put in it could not be the case, we're just minimal?
Yeah, it would be fair to say that year on year, the management of the event has been put in further and further measures each time, and like I said, they have been more and more effective. But we did still see, I don't know exact numbers, but there was still reports of people continuing to walk to the premises or from the premises with 7,500. Again, it's until it actually happens and is put into place. Hopefully the suggested measures will stop the problem completely, but the concern is that it still would happen.
So there was, there have been, well, you mentioned as well that you're not sure exactly on the numbers. I know last time when we discussed this, we did ask questions about being able to quantify some of the incidents, and there were obviously statements from people, also or from officers suggesting numbers that may have been dealt with. Do you have any more detailed information on that? Because I know you say you haven't got the numbers, but I'm just conscious that that was an issue previously, that we couldn't tell exactly what was going on, and I guess there's always not an accepted amount, but that it's expected that there will be a certain amount of incidents, and it's relative to, you know, how serious they are and the frequency. I mean, there were certainly some incidents that happened which were not ideal at the event, but yeah, I don't know if you've got any more information on that.
I don't, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, that would be better answered by the sergeant of the team, of everyone that would have been there, and she's not here, unfortunately.
And so lastly, if so appreciate that, you know, essentially people putting on events shouldn't expect police coverage to sort of do their stuff, to cover those events free of charge. And I know that the last event, police were paid to cover at the site. Do you feel that there is anything that could be done to address the issue of the people walking down the road by the police, if well, enough cover was paid for?
From my understanding, it's not a criminal offence for people to be walking on the road itself. So I believe the powers of the officers are limited as to removing people from the road beyond, you know, offering them a lift to where they're trying to get to, which I think is what has happened previous to the last event. Yeah.
So, but it has sort of essentially then the police have I think there's a certain amount of respect that may be involved with some of this, because I guess that if a policeman stops you and says, you know, well, even you jump in the car and, you know, we'll take you to somewhere safe, they may, you know, someone may get in. So I don't want, it's difficult to sort of suggest that a taxi service, essentially paying the police to be a taxi service, would be acceptable even. But obviously you've made your representation and you've not suggested alternatives. So I'm assuming that essentially you don't feel that there's a suitable alternative based on the situation that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, it's to raise our concerns. I would feel that it's beyond sort of myself to suggest measures for the premises to put into place for their event. So obviously, I mean, it's your place. You own it. You're there. You know what the area's like. You know what the roads, what the access is like, what the problems are. It would be sort of beyond my expertise, sort of thing, to suggest measures.
Thank you very much. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you. It's stated here, previous events at the premises which have resulted in significant police resources to address the issue of patrons walking. Can you please define for me significant?
Yes, that obviously has applied, it's reduced year on year with the additional measures that have been put in place. I believe the first couple of times, I recall if it's in Sergeant Charland's statement, but I think for the first event or two, they were constantly ferrying people backwards and forwards, and that was when they had been called in, been reported by a member of the public that people were walking on the road and they nearly ran someone over, sort of thing. But I wouldn't know that, I'm afraid, sorry.
My understanding from the previous hearing was it was very few in number. So significant sounds a bit of a stretch. I also understand that 10 police officers have been paid for the Saturday and Sunday on the recent event. So I don't like the wording of that particular phrase, because certainly from what we were told previously, it seems a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, that would be down to resourcing. So a significant, it could be low in number. Say if, for argument's sake, 4 officers turned up, but across Brentwood and Thurrock, sort of west coverage, there was only 8 officers on shift, then it becomes significant due to the time of day. There would be less officers available in total across the district for coverage. I'm not sure what specified if there was a sort of contract when the officers were paid for on this occasion, but they almost certainly would not have been on sort of the regular duty roster, if you like. They would be separate to any resourcing allocated for that night or those shifts.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burke, I don't know, are there any other questions from members at the moment? Do any other parties have any questions of the police?
None from me, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll now hear from the applicant and their statement. Mr. Rees-Gay, who is representing the applicant, and Kate Chanson, the licence holder.
Chair, sorry.
Oh,
Needs to go Mr. Leonard.
apologies for that, Mr. Leonard. Your name's not on the list, and I was just going through. So apologies. So, Mr. Leonard, would you?
Thank you, Chair. As I said at the beginning announcement, I'm making the representation as a responsible authority in my capacity, as permitted by virtue of the Licensing Act as amended. I want to point out straight away that I am delighted to have a very good working relationship with Mrs. Shannon, the owner of Kelvin Hall, and the other organisers of Appetite on the Farm. I know the gents probably know from the years that we've carried on with the SAG meetings and whatever, I'm that old git that probably goes a little bit against the younger generation a little bit, and for that I apologise. I never realised I was going to get that old, but here I am. What I want to say on this with regards to this, certainly the premises, Country House, it's a manor, it's licensed to provide alcohol and entertainment up to 5,000 people. Interesting, obviously, the argument whether we're against, or the representative against 5,000 or the increase or anything. My experience of dealing with, I've been to a couple of the events, not in the last 2 years, and in fairness to the post-event information, it has improved. You know, obviously the chaps that are doing this, they are learning every year. And in that respect, as I said, certain things got better. Certainly my experience on the few times that I've been there where I've been offered balloons in the car, and I'm looking at a different age group anyway. So the experience I've had every time when they've been leaving is no matter how much you put a plan in place, you can't control people once they're out of the perimeter of the premises. There's no powers or law to do that. So just going on to this, with regards to this, as I said, I've got a lot of time for Katie and what she's trying to achieve here. The site has extensive grounds. It has ample space to host 10,000. It's probably bigger than some countries. It's massive. And it covers that. However, my contention and my concern is the location rather than the site. And the surrounding infrastructure is totally unsuitable for hosting a festival of capacity based on the nature and the event taking place and the age of the demographic it attracts. The hall hosts a whole load of events during the course of the year. There was what's the other festival one? There was one for an older age group, much less numbers, but we didn't even get a peep on that. So again, different age groups, different customer bases are going to have different acceptance of what they can and cannot do. In respect of this, obviously the location here, the premises, it's situated in a rural area with a primary road leading to the site being Ongar Road, the A128. And this is a primary road infrastructure linking Brentwood and Ongar as a designated national speed limit road and many bends. It's very poorly lit and there's no pedestrian path until it reaches Kelvedon Hatch, which is approximately about a mile from the premises. Along the journey with there's a little verge, but there's due to hedge roads and whatever there's and other part life, it's a difficult place to egress from. And obviously, as I said, from the concerns that we've received every year post-event, it's been an issue in regards to concerns. I'll probably do it with sort of summing up with all this. You've seen the supplementary reports from the police, which again, we were basing, again, I'm there to support the police, to support the authorities with regards to the concerns here. And obviously, having heard from your question on this, is there a fear there's going to be more trouble, incidents, frequency? It's not really about trouble. As I said, again, most things, whilst there are a few unsavoury incidents that have been reported back, and that's probably going to be the same as if it was Glastonbury or anywhere else, you're going to get that because of the nature of this. My concern isn't about the trouble, the incident frequency, it's purely the safety. And if you ask me, is 5,000 too much? As a personal thing, and from what I've received back, yes it is, but we're not here to deal with a 5,000 licence. If we were to do that, we'd be reviewing the licence rather than dealing with an application to vary. So is 5,000 too much? Not for the event, not for the site. It's been, as I said, I'm sure there's a lot of positives that have gone on that. I'll be totally honest with the feedback from this one with the 7,500. We got a lot more positive reviews than we have in the past, but that didn't say we didn't get the concerns that were released last time. So with regards to that, and having sat in on the safety advisory groups post-event, pre-event, post-event, whatever, the same issues reapply every single year, and it's about the egress at the time of night. I've in my wisdom said, well, maybe if they did glamping or something like that, where they kept the people on the grounds over the weekend, would that stop them leaving and having problems? It would bring on a whole load of other security matters because they've got to police the people within the grounds, but that would be their problem. The problem I've got, as I said, irrespective of numbers, is the fact that it's public safety, and it'd be remiss of me not to put a concern in about this, particularly with the request to increase the numbers. 10 police officers in an area that size covering Essex and whatever is, whether they're paid for or otherwise, is not particularly sufficient. If we were looking at a nightclub with doormen or something like that, you'd be 1 per 100. We're looking at 1 per potentially 1,000. And as I said, I appreciate there's a lot of security going into place. And is it really something the police should be dealing with? The concern I've had on this is that when we put all the paperwork together, we have the SAG meetings, on paper, text work, it's perfect. You know, the chaps are good lads, they're experienced, they put good cases across, they work from the Purple Guide, all the things that are supposed to go right. But the reality is, and I'll put that in the thing, is that it's more by luck than a deliverable plan that we haven't had something more serious with people leaving. As I said, the year that I was there with, I think it was the previous security, we were all talking a good shop at the White Gate entrance when people were leaving at 10:30, 11 o'clock. But the reality was people weren't waiting, particularly on an August bank holiday. We were having youngsters coming up who were probably worse than we're saying, we're going to the airport at 3 in the morning, we've got to get to Ibiza or whatever, and you can't detain them, you can't stop them going onto that road, no matter what measures are in place. And that was the concern, as I said to you, with regards to this. It's not about whether I think 5,000 safe or not, it's not whether it's a great event or not. Certainly the feedback was very, very good. But as I said, it would be remiss of me to say, as a responsible authority and as someone that obviously has been here from the outset on these things, to say nothing has happened, it's not a problem, and no one's been wiped up, because we've had a couple of cases, again, this one here where a car has apparently been stolen and crashed, but it was people from the event. If you look on the web pages, people are enjoying themselves. Are they all totally whether or not inebriated or whatever? As I said, that's what happens, functions there. But the reality is how to address people leaving at 11 o'clock at night when it's pitch black with limited lighting and limited resources on the road. And that has always been my concern. It's the safety. It's nothing against anybody that's running it. And within the grounds, I'm sure they do a good job. I hope that's put across everything. Obviously, it's not substantiated at this stage by police figures and reports, so that was supplementary put in, and obviously you've had an opportunity to read that. But as I said, with regards to the post-SAG events every year, it is the same with regards to that. Sergeant Charlotte will come back and say never again. Essex Highways will say never again, and we sit back and we go through the things there, and it happens. I'm just happen to be old-fashioned and certain my route that it's a safety matter, and at some stage, rather than luck by judgment, something's going to go wrong in the circumstances. And as much as they put everything in place, you can't control people once they leave that ground. That's my representation of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard, and apologies once again for missing you out. So at this point, do members have any questions of Mr. Leonard? I do have something. In regards to the 5,000 number, I appreciate what you're saying. I guess my concern is that if this is a safety issue that we're dealing with, well, I'm not questioning whether it's a safety issue, but as far as the safety issue is concerned, if there are 5,000 people there, by all accounts, the likelihood of an issue is quite high, and so it hasn't been brought in for review. And so that's sort of why I was sort of trying to work out, what figures are acceptable. Obviously, a licence was applied for 2020, was it, or about that time, and it was given with the 5,000 number. I have to admit, I don't know if there were any issues raised at the time, objections or anything else like that. I don't know if you are aware of any of that sort of stuff. Again, obviously I realise we're dealing with what's in front of us, but to date, by luck, by all accounts, we haven't had any issues. If we double it, we're halving our luck. I don't know. So I guess it's, why, if it is a security issue or a safety issue, why hasn't it been reviewed as opposed to, like previously, outside of this? It makes me say the 5,000 number is deemed acceptable. I don't know.
That's a fair comment, Chair, and as I said, with regards to that, that's not putting criticism on the police who complain every year after the event, or the highways who complain every year after the event, or me whinging at a sub thing when I haven't been there to always witness it. certainly the review of the licence will be the way, but obviously this is the one event of the year that takes place where there are any issues on that. As I said, there's an awful lot of very good positive. I'm not saying this is not a positive, but certainly Mr Shannon does an awful lot of good with a lot of other events through the course of the year. And it's whether this licence should be reviewed on the strength of one-off incident or whether it might be something that they should be applying for a one-off limited licence every year, ongoing or something. Again, no, there's a cost and whatever. It's, no, as I said, I'd be as keen as everybody to sit down, be in a position and say there is an obvious answer to this. I can't say that there's significant problems every year because I'm going to get a question on it on what is significant. However, as I said, at the end of it all, it would be remiss of me to say, with the experience I've got from being here and how many years I've been doing this and what's been reported back, not to raise the concerns that an increase in numbers is going to be an increase in potential safety concerns. What they do and manage on the, again, I won't deny that it was alarming, the inference that there was security that were taking money off of people to keep them in there and using, abusing their powers. We had that from parties at the council where parents whose children were there, and that's what they've said. So it is hearsay, and I understand that. Obviously, the fact that it was actually reiterated by the police in their statement suggests to me that there's a little bit more substance to that, and that's something obviously for the event organisers in the future to monitor. As I said, with regards to the site and the location, the site, it's got ample, and as I said, I'm not critical of what they're trying to do or trying to achieve. I'm trying not to be the old fuddy-duddy, but it would be remiss of me to say that I'm not concerned with the safety issues with regards to this, and an increase in numbers will only exacerbate that.
Thank you, Mr Leonard. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you. It's just been explained that obviously at 5,000 it wasn't brought to the committee to review, it was considered satisfactory. You've also said just earlier that there were more positive reviews this year than in the past.
So that is correct. Last year was probably the most significant. I'll use the number. There was the most complaints was last year, particularly with Kelvedon Hall Lane, and the residents were put out of there. And I won't deny at the beginning of the year when this was being advertised, I did have the parish council on to me where they were saying there was about 15 people that were up in arms ready. And based on the complaints received from last year's event, I fully expected a lot to object to that application to vary back in July. The reality is, as I said, the event organisers and Katie did have meetings with them all and tried to appease them and put their mind at rest, and those objections didn't come in, or representation. So I won't deny that they're not trying their best to do that. I don't think anybody's saying that we're being critical of this. They're trying their best to do these things. And certainly this year, as I said, I haven't had the same amount of complaints coming back. I have had, as I said, just a few alarming things about what was going in there and what was going on within the grounds there, which is a little bit alarming. But as I said earlier, that will happen at any public notice event. And I know that the Chief Superintendent of Essex Police this year put out a big pro forma about events at the beginning of the summer, saying about additional policing and security and wearing that. I've not put that in my response. And I won't deny again that a lot of this is to support Essex Police and Essex Highways, who are the ones that primarily deal with this front line, where I have got that little bit of a luxury that I haven't got to be there for the event, and I don't want to be saying things when I wasn't there at this year's event. As I said, there was a lot more positives with regards to the one-off event, and things were put in place there, but it didn't detract from the fact the same issues were being reported on the way back. The fire safety officer, who is a responsible authority, he lives around there. He'd said to me exactly the same problems that he has every year. He's got an opportunity to put a representation in, but as you know, at committee hearings, fire service don't usually put anything in, much like planning. So again, it is all hearsay, it is all feedback. And as I said, I look forward to what the applicant is putting in place. As I said again on this, although it's the licence is just the application to extend the capacity. As you'll know on applications on promoting the licence objectives, it will usually say, or it says on that, what additional measures are they going to put in to promote these licence objectives. I'm not questioning that they don't put a very good showing on what they're trying to do. It's just when you put it in on paperwork with with bundles and bundles worth of good practice, risk assessment, event management protocols. On paper, it's brilliant. In reality, it can't always work. It's just not possible. And that's what we have proved year on year. And at this stage, with no fatalities or serious injuries, thankfully, touch wood.
Thank you for that. So in addition to more positive reviews this year, I believe they also had a positive SAG post-event review report as well. So there seems to be a lot of positivity about the event this year compared to previous years. But also the other point I'd like to pick up on is the events that the unsavoury events that may or may not have occurred within the grounds. I believe the people organising have acknowledged that, not necessarily seen it, witnessed it, but happy to take on board, and to the extent they're even prepared to change the security. So everything they're trying to do seems to be bending over backwards to be as helpful as possible. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, I know they're trying to achieve a good outset. We can put the positive spin on it. It's a wonderful thing for the community. I mean, Brentwood had the Brentwood Festival at the Brentwood Centre for a number of years, very, very successful. It did have a slightly better infrastructure in place with the roads and the lighting and everything went with it. But yeah, suffice to say, there's a lot of positives I'm sure they can promote on that. And obviously, I'll be very interested to hear what the applicant is going to do. That they can probably or hopefully reassure us that all these issues that have been raised can be absolutely eradicated. My concern is that they can't be eradicated. You can do as much as you can, and it's just a matter for yourselves now to decide whether enough steps have been taken in place. I would argue when you said it was a really positive post-SAG, it went ahead and we said that there was a thing there, but I would say that still the same issues were raised and still the same concerns were raised. So whilst it might be an interpretation, it was much, much better. It was well done. But as I said, it wasn't free of any of the concerns that are raised every single year when there are 5,000 people involved in it.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Any other questions from members at this point? Okay, so do any other parties have any questions of Mr. Leonard?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll now hear from the applicant with their statement, Mr. Rhys Gay, who is representing the applicant, and Kate Chanson, the licence holder.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just check you've had an opportunity to read Owen's statement that came in yesterday, just from last mile? Thank you. So in my presentation, Chair, I'll cover a brief background of the operator, the application itself, then in detail the representations received, and then a brief summary. So, Chair, today we seek the granting of the application as applied for the extended figures to 10,000. As per the report, the application is being submitted by K Hatch Limited. The venue, Kelvedon Hall, will now, no doubt, be known to the committee. The premises, under its current premises licence, is principally used for events. The major event at the premises is Appetite on the Farm, currently a music-led event that has grown, as you've heard, year on year. However, the application, if granted, will allow other events to take place. There has been interest from Live Nation and AEG to run events there. So this application is not specific to Appetite on the Farm, as it were. As you would imagine, there is a full events team for security through to traffic management that are run by external companies. Lady Katie Channon is the premises licence holder, and she is in full control of the event, working with her team to ensure the licensing objectives are promoted. The full team hasn't been brought to you today, only those that are key to the representations that have been made. So I've got Ellis, the producer, who's got 20 years' experience running events, and then Owen from The Last Mile, who's a traffic management specialist, who's done other well-known areas such as Wembley Stadium, Old Trafford, but was most importantly the traffic management specialist here for this August 7,500 event. So, Chair, we say there is a very highly experienced management team in place. Specific then to Appetite on the Farm, this is like no other in Brentwood, and indeed we say is a real asset to Brentwood and the local community. It generates a huge amount of employment for locals, including the food and drink providers, taxi drivers, local hotels. It is a benefit to the area. The operator and the festival team have worked closely with the SAG, as you've heard, attending meetings to ensure they alleviate any concerns that have been raised. This is in line with paragraph 8.46 of the section 182 guidance, which states that you should be engaging with the key responsible authorities. Liaison has also taken place with the horse owner who submitted a representation, and I'll touch on that in more detail later. So the application, the current licence, as you're aware, allows for 5,000. The event this year was in front of you as a committee and was increased to 7,500 for this specific August event. And indeed, we've now applied to extend that to 10,000 again after the SAG debrief in August. The premises licence, we say, is well conditioned, and it should be noted that there is no representation from environmental health in relation to public nuisance and noise, which is what you would expect from a large music festival, nor was there a specific representation from highways. They were joined later by the police. There is also only one representation from a local resident. Again, we say this is very impressive for a music event, and it shows that the locals of Brentwood are brought into this event and Kelvedon Hall. Turning then, Chair, specifically to the representations, there was one from the police, one from the licensing officer, and one from a horse owner, and I'll touch on them individually. So the police's objection at page 68, we say, doesn't relate to control and the operation of the event itself, doesn't focus on crime and disorder, but specifically on egress from the site. It relates to customers who previously have been walking down the Ongar Road to reach Brentwood. At previous events, we would say that this is the case, but in this August event, with the measures that we put in place previously, we're not aware of any. Yes, you've had reports, but again, you've heard, and I'll touch on it later, nothing substantial from the police in terms of specific numbers of people, and we would say that we weren't aware of anybody walking on the A128. The applicant does understand the police and the licensing's concern, given previous issues, and has already worked with the police and other authorities to alleviate those concerns, and I'll touch on those specifically later. We say with the tried and tested walking route on Kelvedon Hall land, it now ensures that people don't go on the A128. In addition, during those event periods, speed restrictions are put in place on those key roads in question to ensure that the vehicles that, if they are using those roads during the event periods, they are done so at an appropriate speed. So there's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit whenever the event is on. It's not, everyone has mentioned it's an A road thinking it's 60, it's not. They've been reduced with the TTR road down to 30 miles an hour. So in terms of the key measures that were implemented in August, and we spoke about those at that July hearing, we have paid for police resources, £13,000, 5 police officers per day. And this obviously, to be clear, is in addition to a full security team. So it's not 5 police officers looking after 10,000 people. We have a full security team of our own, and they are there just as a public enforcement role. The parking this year was on site, and we say this has made the biggest difference, whereas previously, the previous event, they parked off site and then did try and walk in. So we say we haven't got the walkers from there. Again, there was no charge for parking this year. There was an Ongar specific shuttle bus, and indeed there was increased fencing around the pick-up and drop-off point. The whole of Kelvedon Hall was used for the first time for this August event, which we say has worked wonders. In terms of the stages as well, they were closed off at different times to ensure there wasn't a hard stop of music and a mass exodus. They were closed off over specific time periods. As you'd expect, and obviously this, the way that the team has worked is that they have taken on the additional points that have been raised from both the SAG and the representations, and indeed have used those moving forward in order to promote the licensing objectives. It is a movable feast, and they're not just stuck in their ways. And as you can see, and I will go through the additional measures that they will go through. If I could please turn you up to the case summary at paragraph 16, if you have it, please. So that contains a list of elements that we will do and were in last August, but I will just highlight the key ones to you so that you have them. So that's, I think that's page 7 of your supporting documents pack, paragraph 16 of the case summary from us, please. So page 7, I believe, of the supporting documents pack. So it's just a list of bullet points of paragraph 16 and 17. So supporting documents, I think, page 7, hopefully. No, that's fine. I think it's paid, should be page 7, I believe. Is everybody there? Yes. Lovely, thank you. Sorry, so again, just to reiterate, entry will be refused in Tickets Council for anyone that tries to walk into the festival via a public road. There will be a dedicated egress team with sole responsibilities to manage egress, and indeed a dedicated security team solely responsible for managing egress. Turning then on to page 8, please. Paid for police presence to exits to the public road. Again, if more are required, we're more than happy to liaise with the police in order to do that. Skipping down further and in bold, increased shuttles to Brentwood Station, Brentwood Town Centre, Kelvedon, Hatch and Ongar. Again, traffic orders submitted to reduce the adjacent road limit from the national speed limit down to 30. Again, we have and would propose this year to have an increased pick-up and drop-off point for taxis within the premises. And again, this would be fenced also. Minibuses on a circulation to mop up anybody who doesn't get a shuttle bus or a taxi. And again, as I've said, the main change would be this pick-up and drop-off point to allow taxis and the shuttle bus to rotate through quicker. And then down at the bottom on page 8, additional measures not used previously. So we would have enhanced perimeter fencing extending further around the pick-up and drop-off area. And again, the specific issue of lighting mentioned by Mr. Leonard, there'd be more lighting at the White Arch area. We would have additional traffic officers also allocated to the immediate road junctions and wider fields. And then bouncing down onto paragraph 17, there will be increased lighting and staffing on the walking route, Chair. We received the police's supporting statements on Tuesday of this week, and therefore you have Owen's statement on those, unfortunately received yesterday. But Sergeant Ross confirms that the security found a knife. We say, therefore, that security were doing their job as they found the knife. The police then dealt with the incident. Sadly, with an event of this size, these issues can arise, but this was certainly the first time that this has happened here at this event. And again, as you're aware, the police have been paid for. There was a 2-vehicle collision, as mentioned, at the entrance of the premises around 2025. The report log actually states that it was at 21:30 and dealt with by 22:003. And as a result of this, there was backup of traffic. But we say, and I will come to it later in what Owen says, but this incident was dealt with swiftly. The event organiser had its own tow truck, it's called a street lifter, at the premises. That was utilised and dealt with it at the time. The statement that you received yesterday from Owen also confirms that the car park and pickup vehicles were actively egressing, and all other routes departing on site continue to exit via Kelvedon Hall Lane and Ongar Road towards Ongar and Abridge. And in Owen's words, the incident should be regarded as isolated rather than critical. There was no significant disruption to the community, local business or the highway network. In terms of the additional resources utilised, as stated, the police have been paid for the event, but again, as stated, if it is felt that more are required, obviously the event operators are open for discussion on that moving forward, should it be required. Sergeant Sharland speaks of previous issues about walking on the road, and that was back in 2022, but no evidence has been put forward to the committee that there was actually people walking on the road this August. Ms. Street from Highways echoes the concerns of the police in relation to pedestrians on the A218. She also states that we needed constant chasing in relation to the TMP, and again, this is covered by Owen in his statement, whereby he in his statement and his supporting emails confirmed that all TMPs and TTRO applications were submitted on time or ahead of required deadlines and evidenced in his supporting emails. In particular, in relation to this August event, for the first time ever, Highways requested additional clarification, these being made by Highways in late July and early August, almost 2 months after the actual TMP has been submitted. In terms of first-hand experience, Lord Ivor, in his witness statement at page 13 of the supporting documents, was there both evenings and was situated at the front gate in a traffic management capacity and he confirmed that the Harris fencing around the car parking field stopped event goers going onto the A128. During his time he was working, he saw no walkers on the A128. He did say there was one group of three tried to push past him and go on, but they returned shortly within a minute. The second representation, Chair, is that of Dave Leonards, who acknowledges, as you've heard, a strong working relationship with Katie and that they received feedback this year praising at the festival. Dave mentions we say third hand a case of door staff requesting extra money from event goers, as has been covered in our case summary at page 13. The matter was investigated, no evidence found. This was reported up to the SIA. The security company in question won't be used again, and indeed there is a zero tolerance by the operator in relation to this type of behaviour. So it has been issue raised, issue considered, issue dealt with. Specific then to taxis dropping off at the event, and as is covered at paragraph 14 of the case summary, there was a mechanical fault at the front gate. Again, it was quickly rectified within 15 minutes. However, the policy was followed in relation to those that decided to get out of their taxis and try and walk in. Their tickets were cancelled when they entered the event, and they were returned on shuttle buses. Mr. Leonard also mentioned there wasn't enough light down at White Arch. Again, moving forward, any event would have extra additional lighting down at White Arch. The third representation, Chair, is from a local horse owner at Kelvedon Hall Lane. Page 77 of your main pack is that representation, and this is covered in Katie's witness statement, and that's page 15 of your supporting documents. Katie's personally reached out to them as per her statement, and it was confirmed to her that the event goers didn't actually enter the horse field. Katie has confirmed that she will pay for restabling of those horses should that be required for any future events. Chair, the committee will be aware of the extensive powers available, including that of review that is available to both residents and indeed the responsible authorities. Obviously, we do not think it's right and relevant, but it is there and a power that they do and could, a power that they could use. In addition, obviously, it's a condition on our premises licence that all large events taking place at the hall must go through the SAG process again. We say we don't think it was by luck that anything untoward has happened. There are ever-evolving policies and procedures in place by a highly experienced management team to ensure that the licensing objectives are all promoted. As you have heard from Mr. Burke, he couldn't answer your questions on numbers of those supposed to be on the road, and as you've heard from Mr. Lennon also, concerns are not substantiated, they're hearsay. Therefore, in terms of evidence before you today, we say there is no concrete evidence in relation to the events that took place this August in relation to walkers on the road. There are no official statements, no official numbers, no times, no dates. As you've heard from both the police and authority, they are concerns. So your decision today, we say, should be based on the actual evidence before you under the Thwaites case, and we say there was no evidence before you in relation to people walking on the road on the A138. Chair, I do have a brief summary. Would you like that now or later?
You will have a chance to sum up at the end if you'd like to, so
sum up at the end then,
hold
Chair,
on
please.
to it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that after I was granted 7,500 in late July, I was so concerned that I personally stood in the PUDO, what's known as the PUDO, the pick-up drop-off zone, for the entire festival. I mean, I took small breaks for going to the loo and things like that. And my friend Edward Ivor I asked to stand on the gate for the entire event. And I personally witnessed excellent, responsible and safe traffic management from the last mile and all their personnel. And I just want to say that I would like to continue to be part of events, this one and others, that I can be proud of and that Brentwood can be proud of too. I would like to consider possibly glamping further down the line, but all of this, I want the help of these responsible authorities to make sure that I run a safe event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Do members have any questions of the applicant at this point?
I have a question about attendance numbers, actual attendance numbers. What were the actual numbers on the Saturday and the Sunday, please? Thank you.
We had 7,000 attendees plus staff, which is about 400. And on the Sunday, we had 4,000 attendees plus 400 staff as well.
Any other questions? No. So I have a couple of questions. You state that you were not aware of anyone walking on the A138. How possible could it have been? You know, were those roads being monitored, checked? You know, how much? Could they have? You know, I don't know how many could have gone through. I mean, there were obviously some who tried to leave and some that came back. Appreciate that. I'm just wondering, you know, by your account.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say all access and egress points were managed with SIA staff, police staff, and also traffic staff. So there was quite a barrier for them to get through. As was mentioned, we did have some attempts, but those were dealt with. And then in terms of externally, we did have external TM team who were monitoring the area, driving around, dedicated to only working outside, and from them we had no reports of walkers during that key period.
Thank you very much. One of the statements mentioned about a group trying to leave and then coming back. One of the things that it did show was essentially how powerless the security staff are to actually stop people leaving. There are reasons for them to come back. It was not a good. There was obviously a you know, you're kind of guiding people and stopping people leave through other measures. How do you feel? How do you think the ability of the security staff is sort of hampered by that situation? You know, people essentially being able to ignore them. I mean, I know it was only one incident. Just wondering if you had any other thoughts.
Chair, I think, well, you know, obviously the security don't have the power, the authority or the power that certainly the police have, but hence that's why the police were paid for and to be at the event, who also are there as a deterrent and as a guide in line with all of the physical measures. So it wasn't just one layer, it was follow the routes, plus you have to go through stewards, then the SIA, and then the police, and as you've heard, they would turn back and did come back.
Thank you very much. So I don't know if there's any other questions. Anyone at the moment? No. Are there any questions from any other parties? Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question. You said during was there 15 minutes that the gate stopped working and traffic backed up and people got out of the taxis and walked in but were then refunded their tickets and put on a minibus. How many was there in that 15-minute period?
It's working. So unfortunately, Scott, as our production manager, is taking ill. He was meant to be here today to actually run through it. There was around 20 people that did cause us a massive kind of problem as well, you know, because obviously they looked forward to the day, but we had to do what we basically was told to do. Well, actually, we actually put that measure in place ourselves, and yeah, it didn't. They was not very happy, but we just had to deal with it and pay the consequences, I guess.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so before we retire to consider the matter, there is an opportunity for you to make closing remarks. Mr Adams, have you anything to add from the licensing authority?
No, not from my position. Thanks, Chair.
Mr Burke, have you anything to add?
I've got nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair.
Mr Leonard, anything to add?
No, thank you. I think I've said my bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Leonard. And Mr Rees-Gay.
Sorry, Chair, I do. The operator has sought to and has dealt, we say, with all issues raised in the representations, in particular in relation to the police and the licensing and highways concerns about public safety and egress. Given that there is no evidence of event goers being on the roads during egress, and indeed there are the following further additional points. Additional police we would be happy to pay for if it's felt that that's required. Increased shuttles to Ongar, Brentwood Station, Brentwood Town Centre and Kelvedon Hall. Increased fencing around the ingress and egress areas around the Pudo. Further increase in the size of the Pudo itself to facilitate that and make that even slicker. Additional lighting at White Harch area. Additional traffic officers and indeed additional lighting and staffing of the walking route. Most importantly, as you've heard, there is no actual evidence before you in relation to walkers on the A138, the whole crux of why we're here today. The event is and will be a benefit to Brentwood as a local community event, there being only one local objection. There is no representation from environmental health in relation to noise, and indeed there are the powers of review available should they be required. Obviously, we say that they will not be. And it's for these reasons, Chair, that I would ask that you please grant the extra uplift to 10,000 capacity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Rees-Gay. So, if there's nothing else, nothing from you, Mr Davis. We will now retire to consider our decision. I will ask Ms Davies, our legal advisor, and Ms Borman, our clerk, to join us to help us with the wording of our decision. Thank you very much.